Hello and welcome to another episode about Film Freaks with a Z. Wait, I started off wrong. Hello and welcome to another episode of Film Freaks with a Z, the podcast all about movies. Each episode is about a single episode. Oh my god. Hello and welcome to another episode of Film Freaks with a Z. The podcast is about movies. Each episode is about a single movie, and we'll get to this episode's movie in a little bit. But of course, I need to invite you, the listener, to join us in the fan vote. If you want to suggest movies for the fan vote, which happens during Tay's episode, so that'll be in about 2 episodes from now. You can do that now by either sending us an email at ff.filmfreaks at the end at gmail.com, commenting on the latest episode of Film Freaks on YouTube, or talking in the Discord. Or if you're on the podcast, like Player 2 was last time, you can also suggest an episode while we're talking to you. Let's go ahead and introduce ourselves before we introduce the movie. I am Titanic history buff the ferret, and I'm here with
The almost unsinkable waffles.
Titanic.
And Kellis, aka My Blue Will Go On.
There.
Yes, how's everyone doing?
Good.
Fine.
Pretty good. Yeah.
Good.
So Tay, we missed you last episode, but don't worry, it's par for the course when we have guests on.
Yeah, I figured.
Do you want to go ahead and wrap up that conversation we had with P2 by giving some thoughts on the good, the bad, the weird?
The good. I sent you what I thought, right? Let's see.
Yeah, but we
here.
need to hear it from your mouth.
Yeah. No, I'm just gonna have. I don't remember now, so I have to pull up our conversation. Let's see here. All right. So overall, I did like the movie. I do remember that. It was a fun movie. I liked that it jumped right into the action. I thought it did a good job of showing off the main guys. The good, the bad, the weird. And the acting, I thought was great. Cinematography was a little wonky at times, but for the most part, it was fine. And some of the scenes were a bit slower, kind of slowed down, but for the most part, I think that helped punctuate the action scenes and helped build up the characters. So overall, I give it was a bit predictable, but it was still fun. Good watch. So I give it a 4 out of 5.
And once again, thank you to Player 2P2 for joining us on the podcast last episode, filling in for Tay, who was asleep during the recording because we had to record a bit earlier than we usually do. Time zones and all that sucks.
Yeah.
But now we're all here, and we're all ready to go down with the ship, because this episode is about Titanic from 1997, directed by James Cameron. The movie is about 101-year-old Rose DeWitt Buckatar, who tells the story of her life aboard the Titanic 84 years later. A young Rose boards the ship with her mother and fiancé. Meanwhile, Jack Dawson and Fabrizio win third-class tickets aboard the ship. Rose tells the whole story from the Titanic's departure through its death on its first and last voyage on April 15th, 1912. And of course, this stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Kate Winslet, Billy Zane, Kathy Bates, Francis Fisher, Gloria Stewart, Victor Garber, Bill Paxton, and many, many more. So, I kind of mentioned this last episode, and maybe I should have saved it for this episode. But when I originally watched this movie when I was a kid, I had it on the 2 VHS tapes because it's a longer movie.
Yeah.
And I remember only putting in the second VHS tape anytime I wanted to watch this movie. For some reason, I watched it a lot. And maybe that's where my innate fear of cruise ships comes from, or maybe that's where my fascination with the Titanic and other ship sinkings come from. But going back and the other day watching this movie for the first time as like a grown adult, I definitely looked at it under a different lens than I would have when I was a kid. Obviously, you look at the ship sinking when you're a kid and you go, wow, that's cool. I love the ship sinking. And you watch it now, and I feel very much differently about the whole movie in general, but specifically the ending, because it's like, yeah, of course we're gonna skip to the ending because of what happens in the Titanic. Who knew that the ship was gonna sink, right? Um, but I look at the sinking much differently now, not only through a historical lens, but also through an adult lens, and it's actually quite gripping and sort of horrific. A lot of
Yes.
things that happen, especially during the end of the movie with the sinking of the ship, and it is one of those things. It's like I talked about this last time too, which I should have saved for today. So I'll reiterate. It's one of those things where it's like there was there was a time when I was watching this movie and all of a sudden it clicked and I'm like, wow, this is actually super scary and not super cool because of the ship sinking. You know what I'm saying? And that of course is helped by the special effects and the soundtrack working together to really make the sinking of the Titanic just super like just like a very horrific process.
I know exactly what you mean. I was having like so many different thoughts and emotions when watching it. It's so many scenes are just visceral. I'm surprised you didn't say that. Definitely a lot of visceral scenes, and I mean, it is understandable because like when I watched it when I was younger, I also thought it was like exciting and thrilling. Because obviously watching the sinking ship is a spectacle. It's like the visuals are still hold up this many years later and look great. But yeah, watching it
Eh,
now,
some of the
certain things,
visuals
some
did
things.
not hold up, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Some of the people when some people
I
falling
think that the
didn't, but
visuals held up very well, honestly.
The only parts that
Some
didn't
parts.
is when they showed the boats, like the main part. Yeah, they showed the boat like sinking down into the water, like from the view of the water, and you see all the people swimming. And the boat crashes down on them. Those few scenes.
Are we really gonna nitpick a few
Yeah, I
scenes?
am. Those few scenes. No,
This
I'm
is
just
day
like
we're talking about, of course we are.
no, just those few
And I
scenes.
thought looking at the iceberg too was kind of
Yeah,
iffy.
but yeah, I just remember like some of those scenes. I was like, God, like I don't remember them being this bad. Like they reminded me of like Ghostbusters like effects.
Well, you can definitely tell that a lot of the people were green screened onto the ship at that part when the bow of the ship is sinking, vertically into the water. But honestly, I mean, I don't find any problems with the special effects. I mean,
No,
they
no,
made
I
they
didn't
made
either.
three like models of the Titanic to break apart and sink, which is pretty wild. And those like wide angle shots and where you can see the entire ship are excellently done. And I don't think that a
Sure.
few green screen people is going to ruin your experience.
Yeah,
I'm
no.
not going to say like, oh, the people swimming in the water when the propeller blade smashed down, like, oh, that's
Yeah.
so bad, it ruined the whole
No,
experience for
I
me.
wouldn't say
No,
that
no.
either. I'm just saying, like, and I'm not talking about like the people being green screen. That was fine. No, I was the specific is when you see the model of the ship kind of like start to sink, and like the water kind of is bubbling around. That looked a little cheesy, but
Yeah,
for '96, it was fine.
I mean, even didn't even think about that part where the tail end's sticking up like that because I don't know when this fear unlocked or like came to my life, but I lately I just had a terrifying fear of like belly of the ships, and I don't know, like I just have terrible like nightmares of like getting sucked into a propeller of a belly of a ship and like
Oh yeah.
a ship like coming running me over while I'm swimming or something like that, or getting sucked in like that. So
Well,
that ending
I
scene, it was like it terrifies me. But yeah,
apologize for giving you trauma with this
yeah.
one.
No, it wasn't bad. I mean, I was so invested in the movie. It was just like yeah, like at the one scene, I was like, oh yeah, that little, gave me a little goosebumps. But I moved on.
Yeah, I mean, you can like when I had the VHS tapes, there was like the whole special features section at the tail end of the second VHS tape where they showed the models and how they could sink and raise and break and bend. And it's one of those things that like this is a great representation of just how when you do special effects well, they hold up for years to come. And even though there's a few things you could point at and be like, yeah, that doesn't look too great. But for the most part, like when you're seeing the ship and it's like sailing or when people are walking on the ship, a lot of times from those big far out shots and the people walking around they're CG'd into there. And it's
Yeah,
it's 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 not easy to spot. Sometimes it is, but other times it's not. And that's what makes this movie also really special is just how much work went into the special effects, not only the actual models, but also the like CGI and stuff like that.
Sure.
Every time there was like a human falling down and like hitting something on the way down, I could tell, yeah, that's very much looks like CG. But I mean, for the most part, it looked fine because so many of those scenes were just dark, so you can really tell that well.
Yeah, that's a nice thing about the Titanic sinking, at 2 a.m. or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't need the really polish the CG as well as they would if it was bright out.
Yeah.
Yeah, when Rose said, that's the last time Titanic saw daylight, James Cameron was like, oh, thank God.
But that leads me to my first historical kind of inaccuracy about the movie, and as I mentioned in another place, I won't say specifically, just because there are some historical inaccuracies doesn't really devalue the movie for me personally. But I will say, that night that the Titanic sank, it was actually pitch black, and because it's a movie and they got to show stuff, of course they keep things lighted. But actually, there's firsthand accounts of people who didn't even know that the Titanic broke in half. It was so dark out, and when the ship lost power, it was just pitch black, and people in the lifeboats couldn't really see what was going on. And actually, when the ship broke in half, it actually didn't make too much noise. It just kind of broke in half, sounded like a ship, creaking. So a lot of firsthand accounts don't even know that the ship broke in half. And then also when when the the back of the ship sinks, it didn't actually sink completely vertically. It was actually more of at a slanted angle, and it actually didn't stand on its end for as long as it did in the movie. It just kind of started to sink as soon as it detached from the front half of the ship. So, there are some historical inaccuracies right there in the sinking. But like I said, it is a movie, so I'm not going to give it a ton of crap, because you do need to light and have light on the people's faces and see things happening. So just
Yes.
because there were too many lights on the ship or not enough light, it's just like, it's fine. I'm going to let that pass because it is a movie.
That would be a quite a thing of James Cameron. Just like the
Yeah,
last half of the movie is just pitch black. Nothing. You just hear sounds. You're just like,
Yeah.
you just
oh,
hear
this is
screaming, you just
yeah,
hear
this is
crash.
horrifying.
Yeah, I did realize in watching that end, it was like, would the ship really sink vertically down like that? So that you kind of you made me scratch my head. But no,
I
I
mean,
saw
the,
through the movie, I was also like, how are the ship lights still on? Like, it just seemed weird that ship lights were on for that long. And going back to what you were saying, I'm sure they weren't. And that's you just have to do it. Like, I mean, you can't just just not have lights on the movie set. So not a big deal.
there are ships that have sunk vertically. There's a shipwreck that's completely vertical in the ground, which is very rare and odd. But
Wow.
yeah, the Titanic, it's very rare for a ship, especially a ship because it was being dragged under by the remaining shards of steel that were still holding it on the bend.
Mhm.
So it's not like it would have stayed afloat for super long. And I don't even think that it came crashing back down. I don't think that was ever really a thing. I think it just, when the break happened, the front half of the ship pulled the ship down. The end of the ship down with it. So it really did. There was no big crashing down or anything like that. It just kind of sank, and that's how it goes.
I also feel like he did it to add intensity to the end of the movie, because that really did happen at the end. You wouldn't be getting up from the water from there, because that ship would have sunk you right in. It would have pulled you in, and I
I
don't know if you would
wonder.
get out of it.
I'm wondering if that's just like how they thought the Titanic went down back in '97, and then after doing further research, they found out, oh no, that's not actually how it happened.
Yeah,
But I guess they were
yeah.
first-hand accounts, as you say. So
Like I
maybe
said,
not,
yeah,
maybe that wasn't it.
the first-hand accounts kind of tell the more of the story, where it's like, okay, so yeah, he did kind of exaggerate, I would say, some of the things that happened on the Titanic. And of
I
course,
mean
we'll never
the
really truly know because we
Yeah,
weren't there. But
yeah.
right.
we can only go
Only
off of what
Rose knows.
other people say.
Tay was there. He sold enough.
Yep, you're
Oh,
right. Back in my day, you know, no, what's crazy, is I feel like there's still people who think oh yeah, Titanic was the biggest ship. We don't make them that big anymore. It's like, no, we make them
it's
bigger now.
twice as big.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So much
modern day
bigger
cruise ships are floating cities at this point.
now.
Pretty much.
And that's why I stay away from 'em.
Yeah.
So let's circle around since we started
Talk
at
about
the
the
end.
actual story.
Yeah, because I know Greedy loves to complain about the length of movies that I recommend sometimes. And this one, I will tell you, like, even though I recommended it myself, so I guess I have a little bit of bias. I didn't really feel the runtime at all. I felt
No, I
like the
didn't either.
scenes were really speedy. They kind of kept the pace going, and a lot of it was really interesting too. Like it helped progress the story instead of just being filler talk or whatever. And I think that really helped because by the time that the ship sinks, I mean you're what 2 hours in already, and
Yeah.
I like it got to that point, and I was like, wow, I mean I haven't even like I haven't even noticed how fast this movie has been going by.
I
No,
do.
and
For
go ahead.
me, oh sorry, yeah. For me, I do remember. So like the ship started sinking. It was probably about 20, 30 minutes into the sinking, and I paused the movie for a second and looked at like, how is there still 50 minutes left?
Mhm.
This- it's sinking
Uh,
already. Aren't they done?
but yeah, I
Um,
mean, I do complain about it, but I really didn't feel it, and they did a great job with adapting the love story in here, and the love story wasn't over empowering everything, and it wasn't. It was all you know I don't want to like drama filler, but it was like a fun kind of drama filler. Jack was trying to he was taking risks, trying to be around with Rose and having fun with her, and I think it was just a good like balance of movie, and I really do did not feel the runtime either, and I think also what helps a lot is I love how the transition from the present to talking to old Rose to Rose on the Titanic. I think they did a great job going back and forth between those scenes, and yeah, the runtime was very smooth in this one.
yeah. Overall, I mean, there's there's things with the story that I definitely didn't like, but the pacing was pretty good. I will give it that. Um, Although, I mean, I guess it's a typical 17-year-old who like, no, we can never see each other again, and then like half hour later be like, nah, never mind.
Yeah, yeah.
I've changed my mind.
Well, that was before her fiance hit her.
Mhm.
Essentially, I think
Mm.
that like not only is this like a good like romance movie, obviously it's like the fan fiction of a million people, that go onto a ship and find love from day one. But it's also like it's pretty historically accurate in the sense of like power structure, I guess I would say,
Oh,
just
for
how
sure
like
that.
this was
Yes.
this I believe the Titanic sailed before women's suffrage was really a thing,
Yep.
and they have themes of that throughout the movie, especially with Rose being the one of the main characters. She's much more capable than people think she is. She's not your average woman,
Mhm.
and I like that. I think that it just kind of shows how kind of rough the early 1900s were for women in general, because they were seen as more of like
Property.
objects or bargaining pieces to her mother is pretty much having her marry her fiance so that they can stay wealthy, because they lost all their money and stuff like that. So it's one of those things that's like it's a pretty historically accurate movie in that sense as
Yes, for
well.
sure. Well, yeah, you can see it like just as when it's sinking. You know how they just kept the third class locked down below for.
All right, and here's the other historical inaccuracy tag.
Mm.
Is it? Oh, good.
That actually did not happen on the Titanic.
Oh, that's good. That
The
makes me
gates
feel
were
slightly
open,
better.
and if there was a closed gate, you could pretty much walk about 5 feet to the left or right, and there would be another stairway for you to go up. That was another exaggerated thing.
Which
So,
I mean makes
but it's
They had
easy
to
makes
make
to
it
sense. Yeah,
believe,
dramatic.
right? It's easy
yeah,
to
because that's
believe that they
how
would
they
have
were.
stopped the third class people from going up,
Yeah.
Yes.
but that's just inaccurate, unfortunately,
Oh,
or
So
fortunately.
then,
fortunately, yeah.
fortunately, yeah. But then that makes me think of like how crazy it would have been then, like, with all those people just going to the top deck trying to get in the boats all at once. So it's probably even crazier then.
Well, you need to remember that the people on the ship, and this was accurate, they thought that they were just going to go up on deck and it was going to be a false alarm and they were going to go back to whatever they were doing, whether it was having tea or getting ready for bed or whatever. But a lot of people didn't take it seriously until the water started flowing into the hallways. So
Hmm.
the real scramble didn't happen until about an hour or an hour and a half into it, when the ship actually started showing signs of
Sinking.
distress.
Yeah.
Hmm. Interesting.
Which is why you see that one scene where the lady's like, "Hold the lifeboat for a minute, please. I need to go back to my room." Then they throw her on because the people who were on the ship knew what was happening, but all the other people, the first, second, third class people, were just kind of like milling about because it's like, well, they said it was unsinkable.
Yeah.
You never believe. You never believe them.
Anything dubbed unsinkable will sink. It's pretty much just been historic, like all across history. Oil rigs, boats, you name it. If they've been called unsinkable, they sink.
They will be gone. Can we all agree though that Rose is the worst?
How so?
Why
Explain.
you say that?
Yeah, please explain.
Okay. So, you get hints of it. Old Rose is very indicative of young Rose, where she's just a complete liar. She had the heart of the diamond or heart of the ocean the whole goddamn time. But also, just as the boat starts sinking, she had like two chances where she could have gone on a lifeboat and like immediately, came back. Which the first one sure worked out because she got Jack out. But then when Jack put her on another lifeboat and she climbed out, if she had stayed on that lifeboat, Jack probably would have lived.
Well, she was afraid that my theory is maybe she came to her senses and was like, wait a minute, Jack is going with my fiance, who's probably going to end up killing him. Or maybe she, kind of started thinking, was like, wait a minute, I can't leave Jack with my fiance. He's probably going to kill him or leave him.
That is a possibility, though I don't think he would have, because he was just like, no, I've got, I can get on a boat. You can't.
So here's here's my theory. She just wanted to spend more time with Jack, and she was willing to die with him if it meant that.
Yeah.
So Jack was
That's
her
after.
true love, right? So she wanted to spend the most time she could with him, and if that means going through the whole sinking and then freezing to death in water, as long as she was with Jack, she was okay with it.
Yeah. And then that end scene where like she dies and then she's like went straight to Jack in like the afterlife or whatever. It's like, bitch, you knew him for 3 days. You met somebody, married him, had children with him, spent years with him, and still you're gonna go after the guy you knew for 3 days.
I saw that as more of a dream scene because they didn't really confirm that she died or not.
Well, she went back to the Titanic with everyone that had died. They
did
didn't show
die.
anyone that they got
Yeah.
off the ship. So that's how I interpreted it, as how like she died
Yeah.
and got reunited with Jack and everyone else from the ship.
Well, and she did everything Jack wanted. You saw her ride a horse normal. And the last thing he said to her is, "You're gonna die old and warm in bed." So that's why I figured, yeah, she died. And
But
she's like, I knew this
that
guy for
also
3 days.
that's the thing though. It kind of like just negates her entire life that she's lived. If
Yeah.
when she dies, she goes back to the one guy that she only met for a couple days. So like her life was
Which
meaningless
is why
then, like the
she
entire
is the
life.
worst.
She didn't go to her husband, and
Yeah,
she goes to Jack instead of her husband of her whatever, however long.
I don't feel like her life was meaningless. I mean, she lived her life to the fullest. She did everything that she wanted to do and more. They didn't mention she was going to fly a plane. Jack didn't mention she was going to fly a plane or whatever. Didn't mention that she was going to be an actress. So she lived her life. Maybe it's some sort of weird purgatory thing where she died above the Titanic wreck, so she was transported to the Titanic.
Maybe.
I mean, you could say that. I'm in more like they didn't really confirm that she had died though. Like if they had shown her, like I don't know how they would have shown it, but like maybe have someone be next to her crying or something like that. I guess that would convey it a little bit better. So it is a bit ambiguous. I
Well,
mean, it could have been just a dream, and she dreamed about all the people that were lost in the Titanic. Who knows? I mean, she met everyone on there. She met the captain, the designer, the guy who named the ship. She met everyone. So
yeah, it's really interesting though because you cannot get what they were trying to go for that because they wanted to give it a happy ending, but also kind of like a bittersweet ending. But at the same time, yeah, I don't know. It just feels weird. Like I don't want to. I didn't mean that her life was meaningless. Just that it kind of
well,
like
you actually
negates.
you said it verbatim. So
I know what I'm trying to say is that that's not how I meant it. like
Right.
what I was trying to.
I got what you were trying to say. Is like
Yeah, like it negates everything that she has gone through.
yeah, everything she accomplished. We're just like she's like, nah, those things don't matter. Jack, who I knew for 3 days, matters.
Yeah, something like that.
So I guess it is easy to believe that she would fall for this random guy she only met for a couple of days,
For
especially
sure.
with how toxic her relationship was.
Yeah, for sure.
Whether or not that she should have ended up on the Titanic, I guess is just like okay, that's whatever. I mean maybe it's because she was thinking about Jack for the last like 24 hours or whatever since they revealed the picture on the news or whatever that she went back and got transported back to that age and she really lived all those memories. Maybe that's why she ended up with Jack. I mean, once again, it's a movie thing. So I guess they weren't really thinking about like, oh, this character that you never met, her husband, she's with her husband. And at the end of the movie you would have been like, who? Right? Because they never introduce her husband, they just have her granddaughter there.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's why I'm saying like it makes sense that that's why they ended it in the way they did.
For sure. It's just if you think about it, it's just you go, huh? Why?
Yeah, I mean,
Why?
yeah, I'm not saying you're wrong. It's just that's why I think of it more as like a dream sequence rather than actual dying. You know, maybe that was before she actually passed. She dreamed of the Titanic and never went on the Titanic and meeting Jack again. Who knows?
Mhm.
Well,
I
I
guess it
guess we
all depends
just
on what you believe. You know.
no. We just have to watch Titanic 2 to get answers.
Oh, of
Yeah.
course, that makes sense. So, well, then there's the whole thing with the door and the water, and James Cameron finally has admitted, yeah, I guess they could have both fit on there.
Really?
Yeah, that's the thing that's kind of been debated for like the past,
Decade,
30 years,
2
25
decades.
years or
I was
whatever.
like, yeah, how old is the movie now?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it from an angle of two people desperate in the water, I'm sure they could have made it onto there, but I don't think they really had the time. And plus, that water's super freezing cold, so it probably was impairing their thought processes. So, like Jack tried to get on and it tipped over, and he was like, "Well, I guess I'm screwed."
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I
or
was thinking. I was like, I don't think like it was balanced enough for both of them. Like, I
Well,
don't know.
I don't know if you guys saw the Mythbusters episode where they had James Cameron on and they did that myth.
Yeah,
no, I didn't.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah, they
you know,
actually found a way to make it work. So,
but put yourself in that position, though.
for sure.
Like put yourself in the freezing water that feels like knives all over your body, as they explained
Mhm.
in the movie.
For
With
sure.
freezing clothes on.
And yeah, you're freezing, and it initially doesn't work, right? It initially doesn't work. So in that state of mind, after that whole traumatic experience of the ship sinking, yeah, I don't think they would have tried again, or Jack would have tried again, and that's how it went.
Well, they could have taken turns. No, but really, my biggest question is why wasn't anyone else trying to, like, that's a big piece of, like, just floating piece of wood. No one else is trying to go, hey, I should get on that. Like, so I see her on that. Why can't I should get on it? That's like the most, I think, confusing thing to me was just like, they didn't want to bring the lifeboats in because like, oh, they'll swarm us. But yeah, here's a door, piece of wood, and they're not swarming it.
But you
That's a
also have to
thought that
remember
went through
that
my
the
mind too.
the guy with the whistle said that they were going to bring the boats back, or he's yelling to bring the boats back. So everyone thought that the boats were going to come back. So maybe no one even thought about sweeping over to that thing because they thought they were going to
Maybe.
be rescued in a couple minutes.
Maybe.
Perhaps.
I mean, obviously, this is all speculation. Hard to be. I mean, hindsight 2020 or whatever. It's hard to be in that moment because none of us obviously have been in that moment of being in a sinking ship and freezing water and all that.
We've all been in the cold shower, though, right?
Oh yeah, I've been in cold water. Yeah, I mean there was a lake north of Salt Lake called Bear Lake, and it's in the summer it's about 50, but I've been in it in like the spring and stuff, and it was not fun.
So let's talk about the other thing. They keep mentioning in the movie how there's not enough lifeboats for the people, yada yada yada.
Yeah.
Um, during this time in shipbuilding, uh, you know, obviously lifeboats were just used to transport people from a sinking ship to another ship. So the fact that they did not have enough lifeboats is because the lifeboats weren't seen as safe. They were, um, they got swamped easily. They would tip over easily, et cetera, et cetera. There were multiple ship wrecks that happened before the Titanic, where people got sent on lifeboats and they just, they got swarmed by the sea. They crashed up against rocks and died. So people were. I mean, that this also goes back to why people weren't, trying to scramble onto lifeboats, right? People were more afraid of lifeboats at that point because all those stories, they were published in newspapers. They get around, the lifeboats killed people, blah 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 blah. So the reason why the Titanic didn't require, it didn't need to have, well, maybe it needed it, but it didn't have all the lifeboats, was because they were mostly used for ferrying people back and forth from a distressed ship to another ship. And then also, people have done the math, people have done the timeline, and even if the Titanic did have enough boats for the entire lot of people who were on the ship, it wouldn't have mattered, because by the time they started launching lifeboats, it was about an hour into the sinking, and the ship only lived for about 2 hours, uh, gaining water. So by the time that they even went to the collapsible boats, which were the last ones that they had, the ship was already practically underwater, and they wouldn't have been able to launch any more lifeboats anyway.
That is fascinating.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah. Like, I mean, yeah, it makes sense. I mean, they seemed shocked and surprised, especially in the movie. It was like, oh, the nearest ship is 4 hours away. What?
Yeah,
Like,
that's yeah,
sounds
that's
like,
another thing. Like the shipping lines are supposed to be close enough where a ship is only about 100 miles away from each other, but obviously there weren't as many ships out that night, and
well, they were
having
going
the
as,
wireless distress signal is only going to help you so much when the nearest ship is,
yeah.
you know,
Well,
4 hours away.
my guess is, well, I don't know how accurate it was, but the Titanic was going fast, and it was, fast, a lot faster than the other ships. So it may have outpaced them all and
Yeah,
doomed
that could
itself.
be entirely true too. That it just was faster than the other ones. But
Because,
yeah,
yeah,
there was like a group of ships kind of in the rough area, but they were all just too far away.
yeah.
And actually, the one that they show in the movie, I forget what it was called. That one was actually the farthest one away, so I don't know why they showed that one.
Really? Yeah, because like they zoomed into the name, like they wanted people to know, oh, that's the ship that rescued them. It's like they the time they spent showing that on screen makes me feel like they want the audience to know it was significant in some way. But I don't know.
It was one of the ships that came to the rescue, but
Okay.
I believe it was one of the last ones that showed up because it was the farthest out there. But maybe it
Well,
was a
and
bit
the
faster.
movie made it sound like only one ship showed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do believe a couple of ships eventually showed up. I
Oh, I
don't
would
know.
imagine. So,
But also, can we talk about like how fascinating it is to see like how the ship runs, like seeing the engine room and how many people are like scrambling to do different things, and then the boiler room and like so many people have to be there, have to have a job to keep the ship running, and it's just absolute insanity.
yeah.
Yeah, the giant machinery is a little off-putting, but it's really cool to see the inner workings of the ship. And yeah, obviously, like they said, they weren't going to be filling up all the boiler rooms or the boilers, and you're like, you've already seen like a ton of boilers. How many more could be on this thing? That's kind of the thought going through your head at that time.
A lot. The whole bottom half.
Imagine just being down there though, like just working, and all of a sudden just hear a crash, and then water just starts going in. They were probably
Yeah.
the first to die, unfortunately.
Yeah,
They were the
scary.
first. Yeah. The
Yeah.
one department, the front one, it probably flooded immediately, killing everybody in there. Like they didn't have a chance to get out. That was probably the second one that they showed. The guys closing the doors and getting out.
Yeah, there wouldn't have been too many people in the front of the ship because that was just a section to hold the anchors, and it was
Hmm.
like a waste section where all the poop and stuff went.
Yeah.
But yeah, as soon as just like they said in the movie, it was like a Morse code across the side of the ship that five or six holes opened up in different compartments, and
Yeah.
you know I don't know why they decided not to completely seal these watertight quote unquote compartments. But yeah, they only went up to like deck 4, and then they just stopped. And as soon as the water got to deck 4, guess what? It flowed over into the
Yeah,
other container. Obviously, it was ripped apart enough that it wouldn't have survived with all 5 of those compartments broken into anyway. But it's just
yeah.
one of those things where it's like,
But it would have taken longer to sink, and they
yeah,
probably could have gotten more people.
it definitely would have taken longer to sink if those
Had-
were actually watertight compartments.
yeah, but
And
they just didn't do that, which is so weird.
and the other thing just to mention is you see those watertight doors shutting. The guy who kind of like crouches under it when it's almost closed, he wouldn't have been able to do that because those doors need to make a seal. So
Mhm.
the final like couple inches, it just slams shut.
Yeah.
So he probably either would have A, had his whole leg amputated right there, or B, he wouldn't have made it out
Yeah.
to that door.
I was almost, for some reason, I thought I remember, but I think it might have been like Poseidon Adventures or a different movie like that. Somebody got caught in the bottom of the door, which so it couldn't shut all the way, and then that's water got through. But I think, like I said, obviously that was another movie. I can't remember what movie now.
Yeah. Also, Poseidon went rolled upside down, so I
Yeah,
don't know if that would help anyway.
Yeah, that's true. I don't think it was Poseidon Adventures. I don't know what movie it was. But yeah, eventually, yeah, he would have just been cut in half.
And actually, later in the movie, you do see a couple of those boiler room workers helping with lifeboats and stuff like that. So they did eventually make it to the, some of them made it to the top, but
That's probably the ones that snuck under the doors.
yeah, the ones who were able to escape the danger made it at least to the top of the ship.
Yeah.
I thought it was so funny how Jack and Rose, like when Rose went back for Jack, he was in handcuffs, so they had to like make that escape, and then they were caught between doors, and so they had to make that escape, and then they found themselves back inside, so they had to like escape through yet another set of doors, and it's like out of everyone in the ship, they had to escape 3 times.
They also had to escape the gunfire as well.
Yes,
Which is why they went back down.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, that's just movie, basic
Yep.
like. I do find it like I do find it a little bit annoying that they had to go back and forth a couple times, right? But like I said, it is like a part of like the movie script where it's like, oh, and then they go back under, and then she does this, and then they do that. I guess I'm not like too angry about it, but I do see like, yeah, it is kind of annoying to see Rose jump off of 2 lifeboats, and then they go under 2 times, and then they do this 3
Yeah.
times.
It's like I
Yeah,
said,
I'm
a lot of
not-
that would have been fixed if Rose had just stayed on the second lifeboat. And then, like I said, if it had played out exact same, besides the gunman chasing him, Jack around because he thought he was safe and had his own boat, he would have left Jack. So let's say Jack did the same thing, went to the top of the boat, rode down with it. I assume somewhere he actually would have gotten a life jacket, but he would have been out there. He would have found the door. He would have been on top of it, and he would have lived.
Possibly, yeah.
But again, this is only if he found a life jacket. If he did not find the life jacket, he would have gone down with the ship. It would have sucked him down.
One thing
No
I
reason.
would have liked about this movie, which I would have done more, is I wish it would have showed more about Brock, the guy who put the diamond into like Jack's.
Man
No.
love.
Yeah,
Stuff.
and like not like the man love, just like his evilness, because I feel like there was a sense of evil from him, but we didn't get we didn't get to see it.
Well,
So I would have liked to see maybe him loading that gun, be a little more intense, or he does
Yeah.
something a little more evilish. But nope, it was just him loading the gun and he leaves. I was like, what?
well,
He
it's
punches him in the
'cause-
gut.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, punches the gut, and
Well,
then he loads the gun, and then what's his face? Billy Zane, steals the gun.
You got to
But-
remember he's paid by Billy
Billy
Zane's
Zane.
character.
Yeah.
So
Cal,
he's not
that's his-
inherently evil, I wouldn't say. He's just being paid to, mess with and fuck around with
Yeah,
with
okay,
Jack,
he's
right?
but
paid
that's what
to
I'm
be
saying.
evil.
We saw more of that. Like maybe show him like getting handcuffed up.
Well- They did show him getting handcuffed.
They showed him getting handcuffed to the pipe.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
getting handcuffed in the room with the drawings.
Well, yeah, they showed him getting handcuffed in the room with drawings,
Yeah,
but
and then they
like,
showed
I'm
him
saying
they showed
actually
him-
getting handcuffed to that pipe.
Yeah,
Yes,
they did show him that.
Oh, maybe I
It was
blinked or something,
the
but-
master at arms who handcuffed him to the pipe, and then the master at arms left because the hired the hired bodyguard was
was like,
like, "I'll
I'll
watch
watch him.
him." Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
maybe I missed that scene. I
yeah,
guess
you
I
must
don't
have.
know.
I
Because
guess
they
so.
did, I mean, they did show a lot between him and Jack. Like, Jack tries to get inside the chapel to talk to Rose, and he stops him and pays
Hmm.
off the
Yeah.
two guys standing by the door. I mean, they do actually show a good amount of antagonistic stuff with him. I wouldn't call him evil though. That's the only thing. I would just call him a paid guard
Well,
essentially.
he is a bit of a bully. He gets off on it.
Well, I mean, yeah. But he's
uh,
paid to do it, so I don't
yeah,
inherently think he's super evil, right?
yeah,
And
I
there's
guess
a, I
all
mean,
I'm
there's
saying is I wish we saw more of that intensity.
yeah.
I felt
Well,
like we had a good amount.
I'm glad we get to see him die.
Mhm.
It was like a split scene. And he was covering his face. Half his face was bloody, so it was hard to tell it was him.
Wait, yeah,
But
I remember
Yeah, it
seeing
was
his
him.
bloody face, but how did he die? I think I missed how he died.
oh well, he was like right where the boat was splitting in half.
Yeah, they didn't actually show him
Oh,
dying, but you can only assume that he died by when the
Mhm.
boat went under at that point.
what sucks is that we saw Fabrizio die when like the one of the
Yeah.
pipes fell on top of him. That sucked.
Yeah,
Hey,
well,
he
they
went
had to show the
quickly.
characters you care about dying.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, he went quickly. He probably died right there, or if not, was knocked unconscious and just sunk.
Yeah,
Either way, it's better than being awake while drowning
or freezing to death.
or freezing to death. So I would probably choose the freezing to death over the drowning.
Yeah, maybe. But I guess this is a good spot for me to interject historical accuracy here.
Okay.
People always are wondering why the pipe, the smokestacks fell over so easily, and it's because underneath the three of the smokestacks is just a giant exhaust tube that goes to each boiler. So essentially, that caused a vacuum suction that caused the wires to snap because there was so much stress on the pipes themselves that when the water did eventually reach and start to get sucked into those sections through the cracks in the pipes, the funnels just toppled over. And this is also a very frightening thought, but I'm going to say it anyway. So greedy, maybe close your ears for a second. Um, Pretty much an abyss where those pipes would, the smokestacks would have been, and people were sucked into those pipes, and they probably died in the pitch black darkness of nothingness that was inside the boiler room.
Wow.
Also, the fourth pipe was not indeed fake, as most people say. It was pretty much an exhaust for venting out old oxygen, smoke, stuff like that. So it did have a purpose, even though it wasn't entirely needed to be a full smokestack, because it did serve a purpose. So it
Hmm.
wasn't entirely fake.
They just made it into the fourth to make it look like a fourth smokestack for aesthetics.
Exactly, and it's because there was a rival ship that had four smokestacks, so they needed four
Oh.
smokestacks. Yeah.
Of course.
But yeah, pretty scary thought that we sucked. I mean, they showed some of the suction power,
Yeah.
with the people going through the windows, and that actually did happen too. But even more frightening would be just being sucked into, those vents, those giant vents that pretty much if you look at a diagram of the ship, I mean, you would have fallen, the 10 stories or whatever, or went with the water down, down, down into the bowels of the ship. All right, on a lighter note.
Yeah. What's the lighter note? I mean, this whole
Oh,
movie's
Is there
kind
a
of a
letter note?
downer.
Yeah.
let's talk about the music. I felt like the music was so
Yes.
well done in
Yeah,
this.
it's very well done.
I have like when seeing Lord of the Rings, it definitely gives like Lord of the Rings vibes. Like the main theme, but I feel like sometimes they use them like a variation of the main theme, which is kind of like a hopeful like song because it like makes me think of Lord of the Rings. That it just was out of place sometimes. Like they like you could hear hints of it as like they're first down the ship looking at all the wreckage. It's like I don't know if this is like where you would play this music. Like this should be more somber. Like you're looking at death.
Yeah, the one
And
thing I do like is they kind of incorporated the music into the scenes, like having the three guy band or the four guys at the end there, playing the violins and the bass, and you actually
yeah,
I don't know. I don't want to say like it made you aware of the music, but it was definitely more noticeable, and it was very cool, for the guy to be like, all right, that's it, and then he goes and plays again, and then the other guys are like, well, I guess we gotta go play, and then he's like, all right, we're done.
I mean, I
Like
wouldn't
that
lump
scene.
those songs that they played into the soundtrack per se. I mean, they were
Yeah.
just music that they were playing while the ship was sinking. The main soundtrack is a very it does incorporate that main theme of like my heart will go on. It kind of throughout the entire movie.
Yeah, I
Um,
didn't. I noticed that this time, and I didn't realize that there were so many different renditions of that one song. And but I thought that part was really cool how they incorporated like so many different ways.
yeah, it's nice how it's different. Obviously, yeah, maybe they could have used a somber version, for some of the more sadder things. But once the ship started sinking, I mean, I think about the choir going and the just the emotion that was put into the instruments as people were flying off of the ship, and it really did make the scenes more impactful for sure when just everything was going and uh, in the scenes.
I agree with you that when the string quartet, the most of the songs they played, I wouldn't say that's part of the soundtrack. But the one song they played though, when they started playing and then they just started showing all the like different horrific scenes of everything that was happening, of people losing hope, of the old couple in bed, the mother with the two kids as the
Hmm.
water's like filling up in with water. I was like that was a very strong scene. I got teary eyed, watching all that.
Wasn't the song they were playing the Near My God to Thee?
I don't
No, it
know.
wasn't.
No.
It's become the famous ship sinking song.
Oh, okay.
Funny enough, they played the same song over the loudspeakers during the sinking of the Costa Concordia,
Wow.
which people did not enjoy while they were running off of the ship.
That was the Carnival Cruise one that sunk a while ago.
Yeah.
It didn't really sink though, didn't it? It just kind of hit a sandbar and like it sank, but like it didn't
Well,
sink far.
well, it hit a reef because they went too close. The
Okay,
captain
yeah.
was a bit tipsy, and they were doing like a drive-by, sail-by kind of call onto the shore. And yeah, it didn't sink all the way initially, but once everything was kind of done, it was practically, at a 90-degree angle, and yeah.
Okay, it was Near My God to Thee. I just looked it up.
Oh,
That was the
okay.
one where the captain was like arrogant about everything, right?
Yeah, he abandoned ship before everyone else was off.
Yeah, and
It was
then
a
he
little bit
wouldn't talk
scandalous
to
because
like the police or whatever.
he had like a mistress on board. Yeah.
Wow.
Actually, let me look. There's an article here.
When do you think that movie will be out?
I mean, the events of that one are, I mean, they could be turned into a movie. Let's see, how long did it take for the Titanic from the sinking to James Cameron's movie coming out? Probably about 80 years. Or there was also the other Titanic, the other famous one, A Night to Remember, which was in the 40s, I think.
Well, here's a fun story. So the Near My God to Thee that they played in the movie, um, there's no record of them actually playing it on the Titanic. It's from he was copying a movie about a different ship, or no, from the Titanic from the 50s, who was copying a movie from a different sinking ship, which like it's just a bunch of movies kept using it since like the year Titanic sunk in 1912. That it's now just, oh yeah, this is the sinking ship song, but
Yeah.
it's never actually like it wasn't actually played on the Titanic.
Yeah, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I guess we'll never really know. But
For
there
sure.
was a band playing to try and calm people down.
Yeah, no, that part's
That
true.
is true.
But according to this article, it looks like they were playing waltzes and not the hymn.
Hmm.
But obviously, I don't think. I don't know. Maybe somebody who survived actually was like, "Hey, no, this is what they were playing."
They're actually playing Corn, Freak on a Leash when the ship
Oh,
went
Yeah,
down.
wow.
there-
Ahead of their time.
So, Callus, do you want to talk about the naked woman in the room?
Alice.
No, I do not.
I
I
will
do not
say,
wish to speak about it.
thinking about that scene, it was done.
Tastefully.
Yeah, that's the right word, tastefully. I don't think that it was like they didn't like zoom in on her butt or on her boobs. It was a very tasteful scene, and even the sex scene in the car. It really, I mean, you really didn't see anything,
Yeah.
and I think that they did that perfect, pretty much as close to perfect as you can for.
I did want to ask you, since you said you just watched the second tape. Is that the art scene in the second tape?
No, so
Okay.
the second tape, I believe the first. Now I might be wrong about this. The first tape stops when you see the bow of the ship almost underwater, and then the second tape picks up from that when the bow
Okay.
is starting to submerge.
Oh
Okay.
wow! So basically, it's like the first tape is the first 2 hours, and the last tape is just 1 hour.
Yeah, it's
Or
an
no,
hour
the
Seems
plus
extra
like.
the special
footage. Yeah,
features.
special
Mm,
features. Yeah.
I see.
Okay. I was just like he's like as a kid I always watched the second tape. I was like, was that because that's where the boobies were?
No, no, no. The one thing
So
that
yeah.
my other half wanted to mention was the costumes in the movie. The hats,
Hmm.
especially, were like really fun to look at. Very of the times.
Yeah. Big
Yeah,
old
especially with the upper
hats.
class. I think you really noticed that with the upper class compared to the lower class.
Well, there's a distinct difference. Lower class
Yeah.
had rags on essentially, and the
Well,
upper class had.
you did see some lower class wearing hats, but they were practical hats, that just covered kept your hair up, kind of like a bonnet kind of thing, which would be good for working. The upper class wears hats with the big, huge brims because they don't have to do anything.
Yeah, they just need to protect them from
The
the
sun
sun. Yeah,
that they sit in.
but yeah, I thought the costume design was really well done here. They like the most fun parts to look at are when it's Jack and all of them dressed up in the first class lounge, and then the juxtaposition of going down to the lower decks and then having more fun and being more relaxed down there. It definitely was a completely different vibe.
Yeah. Did
Definitely.
anyone else think of the joke? No, not really a joke, but when you saw Leo DiCaprio dancing with the small child, go, his next girlfriend.
Mm. No, I didn't.
Okay, just me.
I didn't till now.
Well, I mean, he does only date like 18
19,
and until
19-year-old.
26, so
Yeah.
you know it- the joke doesn't really work per se, but
Well, I'm just saying nowadays, he met her filming Titanic, and actually at this point she's probably way too old for
yeah,
him.
she's probably too old now.
Yeah, because she would be like in their 30s. Because it was
25 years ago.
came
Yeah.
out 25 years ago, and so yeah, she'd be about 30. So too old for
Spe-
Leo.
yeah. Speaking of jokes, there were a couple low key like punchlines in there, like when Jack was handcuffed to the pipe and he's like, "I'll wait here."
Yeah,
There's a few good ones.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Jack had a few good jokes in there.
And I enjoyed that scene where like they're trying to make fun of him at the dinner table because he's from the lower class, but
Just
he
rolls
showed
with
them.
it.
Yeah, he just
Yeah.
rolls with it. I mean, not exactly showed them, but he
Yeah.
made them realize that he doesn't care.
I'm not rich. I know that. I don't care. Rich
Yeah,
people suck.
yeah. I
And he
just I
do.
really liked how they grew like the kind of the tension between him and the fiance throughout the movie. It starts out, you know, doesn't really think about it, invites him to dinner because Rose wants him to, right? And then by the end of it, it's gotten to the point where he's trying to murder Jack.
Yeah.
But I liked how it built to that. It wasn't just like immediately like, oh, I hate you. It was more of like a you're annoying and now you're a pain in my ass and I'm going to kill you.
Now
There
you're
was
trying. Now you've stolen my fiance.
Jack got a lot away with a lot more. I mean, I thought there was going to be an earlier scene with him trying to kill Jack. I thought that was going to happen, but no, not until the end.
Well, yeah, you have to also remember, like, the fiance really didn't care, like, what
Yeah.
Rose was doing for the most part. He only really started to notice that she was gone when, the bodyguard started to,
Follow.
started to follow him around and peep in about what they were doing.
Yeah, and like the scene where they go back to her art room, I guess you'd say, and they're like holding hands. I'm like, wow. But at that point, I think he kind of knew.
Right.
Well, at that point, she had left a
The
note to
note.
him that's like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'm
Now
That's
you
done.
right.
can
Yep,
keep
yep.
me and your diamond in the
Yeah, yep.
safe or
That's
whatever.
yeah, that's right.
Or everything you love in the safe or something like that. I
Yeah,
don't
I kind of read the note, the whole
Something
note.
like
It
that.
was a good note. Okay, I'll give it that. I just don't remember the exact wording.
Yeah.
I forgot about that note. That makes sense.
Um, yeah. I just in general like the story and the movie. I thought that I thought that going back to it, I'd be like, oh, here we go, love story. But I actually genuinely like had liked Jack and Rose. I mean, I know Tay said that Rose was a little bit, you know,
The
uh,
worst.
the worst, but I felt like the relationship actually made a lot of sense.
No, I think
Thinking
the
about it.
relationship did make sense too. Like I said, it's just Rose as she she made some very, very poor decisions.
Yeah, there was that Thumbtanic movie, the parody of
Oh
Titanic that
yeah,
came out,
Thumbtanic.
and
Thumbtack.
they made it a point to be like, "You're rich. Why do you want to die? Why don't you just give your money away?" And that kind of stuck with me and kind of overwrote the original movie for a while,
Oh
right?
wow.
And when I watched it this time, I'm like, "Oh yeah, she is like, just kind of like hamming it up. They actually lost all their money when the husband died or her father died, and that's why she's marrying into money so that the mother can still be,
Comfortable.
comfortable as she lives, which is another thing that you kind of forget about from the 20s where like the mother and the daughter would move in when you married, which is kind of crazy to think about now.
Yeah. That would not fly nowadays.
Hmm.
No, not at all.
But yeah, I actually really didn't mind the romance. I enjoyed it. Their romance was believable, and it told an interesting story.
I
Not
thought.
like fully unique, but it's still like a really good story.
Mhm. So yeah, at the end when Cal's searching for her, I thought I remembered her mom being there too, but I guess I remembered incorrectly.
Yeah, her mom was safely on a lifeboat.
Yeah, far, far away.
Yeah, no,
And I
but I thought.
actually oh, go
I,
ahead, go ahead.
yeah, I was like, no, I thought I just remembered like Cal and her mom searching for her on the boat to see if she had survived.
Oh, you're talking about the end. Yeah.
Yeah, the very end, but like, 'cause we don't actually ever find out what happened to the mom, do we?
No, yeah, you don't really know. And
Yeah,
maybe
they never
that's
show.
that's also like maybe from Rose's perspective, she also doesn't know what happened to her mom,
Yeah,
Hmm.
because she took
but
on Jack's name
yeah,
to
but
pretend
I
to be
mean,
dead.
like we get scenes that Rose was not present for. Why couldn't
That's
they
yeah.
give us a scene?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
no,
imagine the captain and the first mate had this conversation. I wasn't there, but it had to happen.
Well, maybe there are. I mean, obviously, there are some parts of the movie that are probably that she doesn't tell to the
Yeah.
reporters. I mean, that the joke about when they were like, "What happened next?" after she told them about the whole painting section or art
Mhm.
section, she's like, "Oh, he was very professional. We didn't do anything. We didn't do it or whatever she says."
Yeah.
But what
Yeah.
actually happened was they did in fact do it a little bit later. It was just a little bit later. Yeah.
I think she told him that part just a little
Yeah,
later.
she
She's
told
like,
him.
well, then we
No,
went to the.
I think that she said, because she says like he's very professional. We didn't do it.
Yeah,
I
no,
think
she
that
said
At
that
that
there.
time, at
I
that
don't think
scene.
that she told the rest of the story. I think that where we pick up on that is not being told to the submarine guy, what's
Yeah, I
the
don't think
captain or
so.
whatever.
And her granddaughter.
Right. Which you kind of you kind of forget that they're there for the second half of the movie because they don't really cut back to them as often as they do in the first couple hours. But I do like that idea of storytelling that they present in the movie where it is old Rose and the transitions, as Greedy said before, like the transitions where they zoom in on her eye and it turns old, it turns old in a couple of seconds. I found those actually pretty cool.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Same thing with the ship when they did that with the ship when they showed the submarine camera going through the sunken
Mhm.
ship and then it just transforms into the past.
The new
Right.
Those were pretty cool.
So you might know this, Yemi. how, because I know like James Cameron got into submarine stuff and actually went down there. So how much of the footage that we see of the sunken Titanic was that actually filmed by them, or was it like did they get footage from someone else?
I don't remember exactly. I think it's about like 50-50 or 40-60 or something like that.
Gotcha.
A lot of it is like, just CG renderings of what could have been in there,
Yeah.
I think that the exterior shots of the ship are all submarine, the submarines footage. But anything that's going inside, I believe is all renders.
Render or models,
Right.
probably.
Probably models, yeah.
They built so many models, they might as well keep
Right.
doing the
Yeah.
models.
Them lifting the door was definitely not real footage.
Yeah. Okay. I was curious as I was watching it. I was like, I don't want to look this up. Hopefully someone else knows.
Yeah, there's actually a Titanic VR game where you can actually go in a submarine and explore the entire crash site, which was back in like the PSVR 1 days. I don't know if they're going to give it a PSVR 2 port or port it anywhere else, but it was pretty interesting. Yeah, you were like they literally mapped out the entire ship and you could like go through it when it was
Right.
underwater and stuff like that. Very creepy game.
I
Were
bet.
there collectibles?
Yes, actually, you would actually pick up artifacts and clean them in like your hub area.
Oh, nice.
And that's the other thing I do want to mention too. Like, they have lifted stuff up from the Titanic.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, but for the most part, the people who have gone there scientifically with science intents, not intent to loot the ship. They have largely undisturbed the ship itself, because it is technically. I mean, it is a mass burial site for what was it, like 1,500 people or whatever.
Yeah.
So they left a plaque there, and they go. I mean, people go down and see it all the time. Well, maybe not all the time, but pretty regularly at this
Yeah, you can
point.
actually buy it and go down there. It's kind of
Right.
crazy.
But there are things that have gone missing that they've noticed that have gone missing since the not only has since the movie came out, but the original footage of the ship came out. Like, there's a bell that's missing now, a steering wheel, stuff like that.
So people are looting it.
Right. But I guess that's the other creepy thing too, is like where people died because their shoes are there still.
Yeah.
Things that they owned are still there. Like even though the clothes and the bodies have disintegrated, the boots that were made of leather, they're still there in the final
Yeah.
resting place. You see that in a lot of
Which is
like battleships sinkings as well. All you see is like the shoes everywhere.
which is weird because leather boots, that's just skin. Why isn't this no, but really, why aren't the bones still there? I didn't think the
Well, it's
bones
preserved
disintegrated.
skin.
Well, bones are calcium.
Yeah.
And salt and mixed in with salt water. That's gonna.
Eventually, yeah.
Yeah, and I imagine there's like creatures that would eat at them and make them disappear.
Yeah, there's the shipwrecks that are most undisturbed and like the most intact are the ones where there's nothing to eat away at the ship, corrode the ship, no animals or anything to pick at the ship itself. So you'll see some in the Atlantic that are like perfectly preserved. There's no one left on them, but
Yeah.
like the ship itself, you could easily see them like just raising it up and taking it out of there, because it's so well preserved under there. Because the ice of the Atlantic, not enough living organisms down there that eat away at the wooden ships and stuff like that. So it's very interesting.
Yeah. Did anyone else find the movie a little bit like at times go like what's the word I'm looking for? Where you go like that? This seems like you guy. No, what's the word? Where it's just like this is like out of bad, like out of taste or whatever. Like you just feel like some of that stuff is just you should have just leave it alone.
I'm not sure exactly what you mean.
I don't either anymore.
The opposite of tasteful.
Yeah.
I mean, there were I mean, it's a period piece, so you're gonna have some weird things happening. Like with Rose being slapped and the guy wrecking the table that's in front of him.
No, I'm not
Obviously,
talking about that. Like just the Titanic itself, where like it is a mass grave, and you're like you've turned this into a spectacle.
Well, yeah. I
Well,
mean, that's happened with a few ships.
Yeah, that's why they added all those grim scenes of just like people just brutally dying and stuff. And
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the film conveys that it is the final resting place of 1,000 souls, like that. I think they do that perfectly fine. I think a distasteful thing would be what Ghostbusters 2 does, and all the ghosts from the ship are wandering New York or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, look, it's the lost souls of the Titanic." Like, that's distasteful. But showing the ship and showing the story of the ship, I don't find what they did distasteful entirely, but I can see where you're coming from.
Like, yeah, like not necessarily like what they show, just the fact that like they've added like this whole romance story that like, so there's real stuff and fake stuff like intertwined, where it's just like you're not at this point you're not just showing history, you're trying to profit off of history.
Yeah, in the end, it's a movie that was made on a budget. They need to make that budget back. It ended up becoming one of the most successful movies of all time, next to Avatar and Avengers Endgame. So in the end, it is a product that they're trying to sell. But I think they did it tastefully enough that I'm not like angry about it. I guess you would say.
Yeah, I'm not either.
Like a distasteful thing would be like, I don't know. You could name any number of things that they could have done with this movie, and then you'd be like, okay, that was really bad.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel that way throughout the movie at all.
No, like for most of it, no. But I think I don't remember specifics now, but I feel like there was at least a scene or two that I was like, that seems a little distasteful. But
maybe the scene of the woman floating in the water could be seen
that
as,
was kind
as
of
a little
random.
distasteful.
Especially the lead up to that. I forget what they said. It was like undead or something like that, and then it showed that. I was like, "Ooh, that's a little weird."
I don't
Wait,
remember them
what
saying
woman?
undead.
Or they were saying like the unliving or something. I don't know. They made a reference to like something dying, and then they showed that, or something not living, and then they showed that.
Yeah,
So that part,
I just remember the
guess.
cut being very random to the woman dead drowned in the ballroom.
yeah.
But I guess it's more of an artful thing, because they're like, oh, look at this beautiful woman in this beautiful dress. She's
That's
in this
definitely
beautiful
what they were
area.
going for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it would have been a better, like, maybe not irony, but whatever. But if you have like the third, the third the third passengers in there, mixed in there too, like, okay, here's everyone, it doesn't matter what class you are, everyone died.
Yeah.
I guess that would have made it a little bit more tasteful there.
Maybe. Yeah. I do like the one guy who was like, no, I'm going to be a gentleman and I'm going to face this, like, with a cup of brandy. And then when he sees the water rushing in, he immediately goes, nope.
Yeah.
And you see him try to get away.
I don't know. He didn't try to get away. He sat there.
Yeah, he did. But then I think, like, there wasn't enough water to immediately drown him, and then just knocked him off his chair. And I think there was one shot of him, like, trying to climb the stairs, or maybe his son. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was his son, but the guy standing behind him.
Yeah, whoever that was.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also like the one scene where Rose asks that one, like, over exaggerated like oil baron guy, like, where's the nearest lifeboat? He's like, oh, it's on the other side, let me lead you there. And they just run off and leave him behind, and that's actually the last time you ever see that guy. So they left him behind, and he's probably dead.
Which one?
He had like the curly mustache, and he was like the oil baron. He was pretty nice to Jack, all things considered.
Was he the one? Wait, no, the one who...
He had,
the
like, a
guy
top
with the
hat.
curly mustache that helped like design the ship and was telling the captain to go faster?
No. That was
Okay.
that guy did not have a curly mustache. That was like he had like a long face. That guy he
Yeah,
actually was the guy who named the ship.
Yeah, he had a mustache and it was slightly curly, if I remember. But you see him get on a lifeboat.
Yes, he cheeses his way onto a lifeboat.
Yeah, and the guy who was putting him down was just like, whatever.
All right, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, at that point too, I mean, some of the lifeboats were going down kind of empty-ish,
Oh, for sure.
So, like, the more people they fit on there, the better, I suppose. He wasn't
Yeah.
going to say anything.
Yeah, I do find it funny, or not funny, sad. That's the other emotion. Like, people who took a job on this ship, basically, their job is to get their passengers off, and so basically you took a job. It's like, hey, if things go down south, like go south, you're dying. You die with the ship.
Well,
Yeah.
that's such a good scene with the captain. I mean, I don't know if it was more like I kind of messed up, or like I just don't want to
Well, the captain goes
deal
down
with
with the
this
ship.
anymore. He goes down with it.
Well, the captain's supposed to be the last one off and the last one, to die, essentially, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But I think the weight of the consequence of going as fast as he was that night and how they ignored the warning signs about the icebergs being in the area and stuff like that is what really weighed down on him. And obviously, it probably didn't happen like that in real life, but the captain definitely would have gone down with the Titanic.
And
Especially
did.
because if he had lived, he would have been, probably jailed.
Yeah,
um,
charged for lots of stuff.
but yeah, that's the thing about the movie. The iceberg just kind of appears out of nowhere, which is kind of how it would have happened in real life. If
Mhm.
the water's calm enough, the sky and the water can simply become the same. Just a night, everything just
Yeah.
looks like stars, especially with how dark and black it is out there.
I say, if you've
So the
ever been to
iceberg,
the beach
right?
at night, that's what it looks like.
So the iceberg really would have snuck up on them, and they wouldn't have been able to see it until the mass was big enough to kind of spot in the sea of stars on the horizon. But the way that they showed it in the movie is a little bit like, oh, it's there. It's like a jump scare. They look back and it's like, boom. And it's like, oh no, the iceberg. It kind of probably happened like that, but it was probably a little bit less like of a jump scare and more of like, what's that in the distance? I can't really make it out. And who knows if the binocular thing was true, or that they had loaned the binoculars to another person and never give it back. But
Yeah.
yeah, it would have been very hard to see an iceberg, especially a lone iceberg, at how calm the sea was that night.
Yeah.
All right. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I really like that poker scene between Jack and Sven. I liked how at the end of it, like you think that Sven is gonna like punch Jack in the face, but he punches the guy who bet the tickets in the
Yeah.
face.
Yeah.
That was a pretty good scene. I like
And
that.
then
Yeah.
and then later on, when Fabrizio and Jack are in the third class bunks, and they're like, "Hey, I'm Jack." They're like, "Where's Sven? Where's Sven at? Like, what happened?" I like that.
You know what? Sven probably took back that punch later and was like, "I'm sorry, I punched you.
Yeah.
You saved us."
Yeah.
Those two guys died.
Yeah, I really like that narration at the beginning of the movie where it's like it was the ship of dreams to some, to others it was a slave ship, like how Rose felt like she was a slave to.
That was a little over dramatic, but
Obviously, yeah, it was, but I do like the idea of the narration. And in the end, like the people who thought they were going to live a better life across the world, a lot of that got snuffed out in a matter of hours, I would say.
yeah.
But I like that whole beginning sequence because it looks so real. The ship, is moving away from the dock and it starts sailing off, and the flags are flying, and the people are, waving, and it's a moment in the movie that like it's very memorable, and it's done so well because they also have footage of the Titanic leaving too, and
Yeah.
I think they replicated it pretty well.
I thought so when the movie started and like it's that old sepia tone footage, for a second I thought two things. I was like, wait, is this the DVD menu? Why is there a DVD menu on this? But then the others, I wondered, like, whoa, was this the actual footage that they just, that, because I knew there was footage of the Titanic leaving, so I was wondering if that was the actual footage or a replica.
I'd have to watch it again. I want to say that it's a replica, but I'd have to watch the footage again.
I kind of did have a similar thought too when I saw that that first opening scene.
Yeah, I mean, if it is if it is the same footage, it obviously was, which I don't think they could do in '96. I was like, it was enhanced, like AI enhanced, which they couldn't do then, so it was probably just a recreation.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But yeah.
my first thought was, is this a DVD menu? Because it just starts with the my heart will go on music and like kind of superimposes all the, like, it looked like a DVD menu. Go back and watch that part, you'll see.
Yeah, I'll probably watch it again eventually.
Yeah. but you'll forget by then.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? um, yeah. I mean, I think that covers about everything. Does anyone have any questions about if there was anything else inaccurate about the movie they wanted to bring up specifically?
Not that's like inaccurate, but like I don't get why old Rose would go on a ship again. Like, I know, like you
Conquering
went
her
on the
fear like Batman.
yeah, I guess so, but especially to go up to the railing again, man, do you think you would have enough of that?
Yeah.
Well, just
And then she just throws the diamond into the water. The
Hell
diamond
yeah.
everyone's looking for. She's just like, nah. No
Well,
one
I
gets
mean,
it.
I probably wouldn't give the diamond to the people who want
No,
to pawn
but
it
you
off
could
either.
you
Yeah,
could give
You
it
could
to
probably,
your
yeah,
granddaughter who could,
that is true.
live.
sell it. Yeah,
Yeah, sell
Yeah,
it. And
she could have given it to a museum or something.
You could
Yeah,
also
I don't know.
see like it was a representation of her fiance's love to her, which wasn't really love.
yeah.
So maybe with her throwing it away at the end of the movie, it's not only is she letting go of Jack, but she's also letting go of the memory of.
Well, and everyone still thought it was down there, and technically the boat was probably above the Titanic. So she maybe just went, "This will get there. They'll find it
Yeah,
eventually. It'll
maybe
be
they'll
fun
find
for
it.
them."
We weren't looking at the other end of the boat or ship.
Oh, look,
Again,
it's right
this
here
is
on the
stuff-
deck. What?
yeah.
How did we miss it?
Yeah, this is something that we need to watch Titanic 2 for.
Yes.
You
I'm
can
sure
watch Titanic too. It is not what you think it is, guys. No matter what you think it is, it's not that.
Wait, have you actually seen it?
Yes.
I think
wow.
I've seen it too. Maybe. I don't remember now. I've seen a lot of bad movies.
Yeah, there's a couple of Titanic movies. I've seen Titanic 2 just because I watched it for a meme, the meme when I was younger.
Yeah.
And then there's also A Night to Remember, which is the original, like not original, but one of the original Titanic movies, which is pretty well done too. I'll give it that. But then there's also like Raising the Titanic, which is about people who go down in submarines and try and raise the Titanic out of the water or
Wow.
whatever to get the treasure that's inside of it. There was apparently like a rare shipment of material or whatever that they try and raise, and like that. If you want to say something is distasteful, that whole movie.
Oh, yeah.
Distasteful.
Sure.
And then there's another one that's like a cartoon movie with like animated, like anthropomorphic animals and talking
Oh,
mice,
no.
also with humans. That is also pretty poorly done. I think JonTron reviewed it at one point. It's one of those movies that's like, oh, stay away from that at all costs. And you can actually get that on Amazon if you really want to.
Yeah, no, thanks.
I remember I used to have a friend that he came up to me one day. He was like super excited because he was like, "Oh, look, they're making a Titanic 2," and he showed me this trailer, and it's a fake parody trailer, but you see like Leo being like frozen in ice and him being cut out with lasers, and I think they used some footage from Demolition Man.
Turns
And,
into
like,
Captain America.
Yeah, like footage of like Leo in other movies, and he legit thought it was like a real movie that was happening, and I just did not have the heart to tell him.
Well, there's a lot of people who they're like, oh, Leo was in The Great Gatsby, and that takes place in the 20s. So, Leo, sunk under the water to get away from Rose, and then became a billionaire. We're like, yeah, okay, yeah, and
That's true. There's a whole lot of conversation there of like his backstory
Connected
in The Great
universe.
Gatsby is like he came from a sunken ship or something like that. Similar. So yeah, that's that whole thing.
he ends up dying in that movie too, so he can't catch a break.
Yeah. Spoiler. All right.
Okay.
Well, I think I'm good. If anyone else has
Me
anything?
too.
Tay, anything else?
Yeah, no, I'm good.
You're good.
I'm good.
All right. Yeah, I don't think I have any other facts that I want to bring up right now. I think that the movie as a whole was pretty good with the history stuff. There's just a few things in there that I kind of nitpick, just because it's like that is a pretty big thing. Like the movie is propelling that narrative of there wasn't enough lifeboats. There wasn't enough lifeboats. That's the one thing that I really kind of was like, oh, okay, it's a little bit too heavy-handed with that idea. Like, yeah, it is a movie, and they kind of need like some sort of antagonistic presence there that's not like, I guess, entirely human, I suppose. And the Titanic itself is kind of like a character in the movie too, so it's like, okay, Titanic is also could also be seen as an antagonist as well, I suppose.
The
Um,
iceberg's the antagonist. Yemmy, come on,
oh,
everyone knows that.
but I think the one thing that irks me the most about the historical stuff is just how heavy-handed they were with. There wasn't enough lifeboats. There wasn't enough lifeboats. Where it's actually like technically it didn't really matter, you know. And maybe and maybe that information wasn't completely found out until later after the movie was written and all that. But once again, like I said before, it's a movie, so they got to do some things that aren't entirely accurate to propel the narrative or make the lighting look right and give it a cinematic flair. You don't become the number one movie of all time, in box office numbers by being completely 100% accurate, I suppose.
Yeah.
I mean, Endgame was pretty 100% accurate, and look, it did.
Oh yeah. So what planet do you live on, Tay?
Titan,
Titan. There
obviously.
you go.
That's why we
Nowhere.
have such a weird time difference.
Yeah, that's there you go.
Yeah.
And calling us from Jupiter. Okay, so yeah, if no one else has anything they want to bring up, I will go ahead and start with the final review and rating out of 5.
Set it off.
So yeah, some historical inaccuracies aside, some might not have been known at the time. Obviously there's always new theories and information coming out about various historical events. It's genuinely a good movie. I mean, I borderline on saying fantastic. Maybe I will say fantastic. I think it was a really good movie. From the cinematography aspect to how they weave this love story throughout this historical tragic event, right? I think the music was on point throughout the movie, and the special effects were really well done. I'm sure some stuff didn't hold up entirely, but I kind of give it a pass for being, a late '90s movie, and obviously it's not going to be the perfect, pristine CGI we see today. I didn't feel like the movie dragged at all. I really didn't feel the runtime, which is nice for a movie this long. I think that it's fun to watch movies like this that I used to watch as a kid for different reasons, and I watch it now and have a completely different experience with it. And yeah, maybe because I'm such a quote unquote fan of the story of Titanic, I'm going to be giving it the rating I am. But what the heck? I mean, it was my gut rating, so I'm going to go with it. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5.
Ooh, all right.
Figures, yeah.
All right. I'm next. Yeah, great movie. The runtime did not feel it at all, which is great. Absolutely loved that part. It was intense throughout the whole movie. The love, romance, and all that wasn't, like stuck out like a sore thumb. Everything was good. The acting was great, which we didn't even talk about the acting really. They all did a phenomenal job. Lighting, scenery, all that was great. CGI doesn't hold up too well, but I give it a pass for that because it's not like a big deal where it's gonna make or break the movie. Um, Definitely helps, having all these YouTube videos and watching all these YouTube videos, leaning, learning about like all these facts about it lately has been really fun, and it's been making me want to rewatch it too. So the YouTube, the YouTube video, and shout out to Ocean Liners. They've been doing a
Ocean
great
Liner
job.
Designs.
Designs. Sorry, I forgot the design. Been doing a great job uploading videos, and they've been very interesting, and it just kind of, I want to say, helped me like want to watch this and like liked it more even because you have all these facts about now. Um, Movie was great. Loved it. I'm gonna give it a 4.5 out of 5.
All right. Overall, yeah, it's an enjoyable movie. Like I said, the runtime is longer, but you don't really feel it. They did a good job with the pacing. Um, I feel like some of the music, like I said, talked about. Like I feel like some of it felt out of place. Like it was a good soundtrack, but there's times where I'm just like, that seems weird place to play this specific song. Because like I said, they reused that song a lot. Overall, the story itself, like it was okay for me. Like it wasn't horrible, but like it wasn't anything like stand out. Like I love the history of learning the history stuff, but throwing in the romance is just like, all right, that's fine. I mean, it's fine. It worked. It wasn't horrible. The well, the cinematography was good. Obviously, I don't know if they had a ton of CGI, but they did have some special effects that stood out. Like I said, overall, I'm sure this is where it's hard. It's like it's a good movie, and like I can see it for what it is, but at the same time, it's like I don't know. For me personally, it's like I don't probably like when I found out this was the pick, I was like, oh no, I don't want to watch the Titanic again. And that's kind of still my thoughts. Like now I've watched it again, it's like, yeah, I don't need to see this movie again. I'll give it a 3.5 out of 5.
All right. I remember originally watching this movie in theaters, which was
too.
insane. And it's been very interesting watching it now because I think I've only seen it one other time after that. So it's actually been like a very long time since I last watched it. Like probably more like 10, 15 years ago, maybe was the last time.
This was my second time, and
Oh,
I saw
wow.
it in theaters as
Oh,
well.
wow. That's insane. We're old. Anyways.
We are.
But yeah, like I never really had any interest in rewatching it, because I didn't want to have to sit through this whole 3 hour experience, and the whole half was just the romance was just did not interest me at all. But obviously, I've done a lot of growing over time, and I was actually very interested in rewatching it now, and I was not disappointed. I very much enjoyed it, like both aspects of the film, the story wise of like between the two main characters, and also like the from the ship sinking historical aspect. Found it very interesting, and also because of the way my schedule worked out this weekend, I actually had to watch it in two halves. So I watched the first half one day and then the second half the next day. The second half
Just
I
like
watched it today.
VHS.
Yeah, just like the
Yes,
VHS.
pretty much.
You had the whole '90s experience.
Yeah. So because of that, I did not mind the pace at all. I thought it was greatly paced. Maybe that is the way to watch it, but I don't think I would mind watching it the whole way through. Actually,
Yeah.
I thought it was like pretty good paced throughout, and I thought the effects held up pretty well. Like even in the moments where I did notice, oh, that's very much CG that did not age well. Like it does not distract from the experience, and I still very much enjoyed how well everything looked, and I still think it still holds up to this day as a really good movie. It's a spectacle, as I've said, even though it has like a lot of very sad and somber parts, and it's like just horrific things happening. Still think it was a really enjoyable movie. So I would give it a 4.5.
All right.
And I hate giving it that score because I've also given it the last two movies a 4.5. So I feel like I'm just a broken record now.
Yep.
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 All right. My final historical fact of the day, folks.
Ooh.
A lot of people wonder if Jack and Rose could actually go to the front of the ship and do their classic scene of
Mhm.
"It feels like I'm
Oh.
flying." It's very likely that they probably could have gotten up there. The Titanic staff were not that strict about people being on the front of the ship. There was actually reports of a woman doing almost practically the same thing that they did. She was able to get on access to the front of the ship just because she was a first class passenger. So it's pretty likely that both Jack and Rose could get up there because Rose was a first class passenger. As for Jack and Fabrizio being on the front, they probably just snuck up there. And the people on the workers on the ship didn't mind because they were like, whatever. So it is very likely that they could have done that, especially because there is a record of someone actually kind of doing that.
I didn't realize the front of the ship was off limits.
Yeah, because that's where they keep the cranes and stuff for the anchors and all that stuff. So you wouldn't want people up there. But yeah, like I said, they were probably pretty lenient on the Titanic and a lot of ships back then. I find no reason to not believe
Well,
that.
OSHA wasn't around, so
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, like I say,
someone dies doing something stupid, it's their own fault.
right.
Can you even go to a friend ship now? Like to an actual today cruise ship?
Probably not. It's probably the same kind of thing. It's where they keep a lot of supplies and stuff. But I mean, I haven't been on a ship and a cruise ship, so I would guess I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
I
It's like,
suppose they probably
nothing
have it
but
off
pool
limits
up
just
there?
because a lot of people would do exactly what they did. So it's like, oh well, we don't want that lawsuit coming our way when someone falls off pretending to fly on the ship, the Carnival cruise.
I'm king of the world. Oh, I've slipped and died. Well, I'm
All
sorry I
right.
gave your movie the lowest rating
That's fine. I mean, it
of
is.
us
I
all.
mean, if you look at the ratings, it's mostly on the higher end of things, but there's a good
Yeah.
amount of people who give like a 3 and a 3.5.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised. I mean,
Yeah.
I kind of
I s-
figured that your rating would be lower, honestly.
Like I said, I didn't hate it, and I thought the pacing was good. It's just, I don't know, something about it. I'm just, like I said, just the fact that I don't really ever want to see it again.
That's
That's why.
understandable. I mean, it's definitely the type of movie that I would not expect everyone to love. So
Yeah.
Yeah, and you could also say like you don't want to see it again because the movie's going to stick with you for so long. You don't need to see it again because you remember it.
Yeah.
But I do
yeah,
think that it's a good idea. Like, let's say someone's listening to this and they haven't seen Titanic since they were younger.
They should
I th-
definitely watch it.
I think rewatching it now, like I said, you do get a bit of a different experience, especially because you're not looking at it through the lens of a kid who only wants to see the action. You're looking
Yeah.
at it through the lens of someone who is interested. Me personally, I'm interested in the history, and I
Yes.
also really like the story nowadays.
yeah.
I wouldn't have back when I was a kid, but nowadays it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, for me the romance, like I said, it's okay, but I've seen better romance stories, done. So
Yeah, Shrek 2.
yeah, Shrek 1 even.
Yeah. All right, Greedy. You have a movie
Yes.
for us? Maybe.
Greedy, you have
Ah.
two choices. You can either pick another Leo DiCaprio movie or a Kate Winslet movie. So make your choice.
Oh well, I got neither of those in
Aw.
my arsenal. So what I am going to continue though is disaster trend. So the movie I'm gonna
2012.
pick, close, is a 2004 movie, and the name of it is The Day After Tomorrow.
Oh,
I
yeah.
haven't
All
seen
right.
that since theaters.
I remember seeing this younger, and it was like my sister's favorite movie for some reason. And I've seen a lot of reviews lately, and I don't want to go in the movie, like reading reviews, but it's been kind of negative, so I'm kind of very nervous to watch this because I'm afraid the movie's gonna be bad. But
If I
a little
remember it, it was
synopsis:
okay.
Jack Hall, a paleoclimatologist, must survive a daring trek from Washington, D.C. to New York City to reach his son, trapped in the crosshairs of a sudden international storm which plunges the planet into a new ice age.
Okay, so the theme this month is your main character has to be named Jack.
Okay,
And
yeah, that
also,
too.
it has,
Or a
it
disaster.
has,
I
it
would
has to be
say
freezing.
disaster. Let's do disaster movies.
Yeah, no, I prefer disasters.
The
Or like
director
freezing
is
movies.
Roland Emmerich. Writers are Roman Emmerich, Jeffrey Nachmanoff. Say that 10 times really fast. Some of the stars: Dennis Quaid, Jake
Quaid.
Gyllenhaal, Emmy Rosen. What?
It's just Dennis Quaid.
Quaid.
Oh, Quaid. I thought it was like Quaid or whatever. Uh, yeah, Emma. Oh gosh, now you got me all mind boggled.
I'm sorry.
What else? Who? Dash. My Hook. J.O. Sanders, Zella Ward, and a bunch of other people. So yeah, disaster movie.
Well,
Yay.
this is good because I was
Cool.
planning on rewatching this sooner rather than later anyway. So there we go.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's been
I,
a while.
yeah, it's been a while
It's
for
been a
me.
while for me
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
This
Yeah.
it's another one where I remember seeing in theaters, and maybe I didn't watch it. I don't remember watching it since then, actually.
For some reason, I remember the main character like falling into a Wendy's or something like that and staying warm in a Wendy's.
yeah,
But
That might be. I
that
don't
could
know.
just be a fever dream. I don't know.
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out. Yeah, I was almost hoping you'd say 2012 because that's a big meme movie.
It's pretty close. I think 2012 originated from or came from one of these types of movies.
Well,
So.
it came
Well,
from
it's
the
the
Mayan
same.
calendar.
It's the
so-
same guy, same director and writer, I believe.
Oh,
So.
there you go. Okay, so yeah,
Yeah, like he
it was-
does. Like that's his specialty is disaster movies. Like I think he did Independence Day, Then this one,
Geostorm.
yeah.
No.
Geostorm. Oh God.
Oh, he did Godzilla.
No, the 1997 one.
Hey,
No.
a lot of people hate on the '97 movie. I find it pretty charming.
Oh, yeah, that one, the 98.
He did
Or 98,
Independence
yeah.
Day too.
Nine.
Right?
Yes, what I meant.
I think he did Independence Day.
Yep.
Yeah, he did.
Okay. Mhm.
Yeah.
And the
So like he has like hits and misses where someone's like, "This is really good," and then some you go, "What was this?"
That's kind of how it is for disaster movies, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, he did 10,000 BC too. Interesting.
The movie where they open it up with the indigenous people eating testicles or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
sounds bad.
Anyway,
Anyway.
if you don't want to be spoiled or if you want to join the conversation for The Day After Tomorrow from 2004, please watch that before the next episode airs in 2 weeks. You can find it on Amazon, iTunes, Google, and all the normal places.
And make sure you watch it the day after tomorrow.
That's right.
But if I keep doing that, I'll never watch it.
True.
All right. Does anyone else have anything they want to mention before we end the show?
As
Should we all
always, be sure to
sing-
clean your ass.
Yes, and also, should we all sing the theme song? My Heart Will
No.
Go On. That's
No,
all.
I'm
That's all.
good. You can
quartet
if you
it.
want, but I will sit that out.
Callus solo.
My heart will go on. Is that how it goes?
Close enough.
Close.
My heart will go on.
There we go.
There you go.
Trust me.
Oh,
my
jeez.
Anyway, I am.
Another fun fact: the
Ooh.
Titanic pool is still filled.
Yeah, in all the bathtubs and toilets and sinks. Anyway, I am Titanic history buff the ferret, and I've been here with.
The almost unsinkable waffles.
Titanic.
And my blue will go on, Callus.
And this has been Film Freaks with a Z. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.